What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. Finally have it restarted. We actually recorded previously with the same group of people, but I didn't get to upload it because it was like right before a balance change and I was in college, so yeah, those are my excuses. But welcome back. Thank you, Surgical, Mthja, and Naders, as always, for coming back on. And yeah, so whenever you're ready, you can just start off with the topics, Naders.
Yo, it's not that bright out, so I'm switching out. You guys can keep it up if you
I
want.
don't have sunglasses.
So we wanted to start off the discussion today. There's a lot of talk on Twitter right now about the current state of the game. Maybe it's getting a little bit stale. There hasn't been balance changes in a while. We wanted to talk about first, what do you guys think? Are there cards that are problematic, decks that are problematic, or is it just the state of the game right now?
Well,
I knew that was going to happen.
You mean decks? Like, I think heal is a problem, and we've heard by far the most complaints about heal. It's just a card that that counters poison way too well, and poison is ran in 75% of the decks. Musketeer's heal is just such a good combination. Heal is the only combination with Musketeers that actually works well. So I only think that heal is a problem, and the rest is just a bit too far-fetched in critique, I'd say.
Yeah, I feel like he was not really healthy for the game. I feel like there should not be a card which counters a spell. Like, for example, you would put in a card as a shield for a rocket. Like, it doesn't make sense. So I feel like he was the same way for poison.
Yeah. I mean, I could see there being some type of... well, the thing is, if they are going to add in a card that counters a spell in any way, it has to be something that's, like, somewhat niche or like really hard to use. So like maybe like an area that nullifies. I don't know. I don't even know. They probably won't ever do something like that. But the fact that heal, like, literally, it counters one of the slowest acting spells in the game, and it just sits in an area. So it's literally, there's no thought process behind it. You see a heal or you see a poison, you just drop it on top of the cards. Like there's no like strategic play to heals. In some ways, people were comparing it to Freeze when it first came out, but Freeze is like a surprise card. It works one time and then it's kind of useless. Heal isn't niche in any way. If they're gonna leave it in the game, they need to make it like eventually not competitively viable, because it's a card that just doesn't work well. It furthers a meta that promotes like really hard counters. And then as far as like decks I go, the other thing people complain about is like bridge spam or whatever, which I don't think is necessarily terrible for the game. But I do think it's kind of overstated its welcome. In any competitive game, you need to kind of rotate cards in and out. So I think Night Witch and Bandit. I mean, not Night Witch. I mean, maybe Bandit. I think Bandit's okay, actually. I think it's Night Witch and Battle Ram that need nerfs. Because Bandit is only really seen accompanying those two because it synergizes so well. I think they could nerf those two, and then Bandit would be in a good place. And then if they're gonna like make heal useless or remove it, I really think that they could also nerf poison, so that Fireball and poison are more on equal terms. Right now, the only reason Fireball is ran at all is to counter 3 must heal. So those are the changes that I would like to see. I mean, the other thing that we always complain about is Graveyard needs to not have RNG. In my opinion, either add more aspects of RNG, which I don't want them to do, or I don't know, because like for example, Aw Crap tested poison the other day versus Graveyard. One time it did 67 damage. Like, okay, so someone did the normal graveyard placement on his tower, and then he poisoned the graveyard in defense. One time it did 67 damage. One time the graveyard did over 600 damage. And
with a tank?
No tank, just graveyard.
Okay.
So there's like, and it's the same thing when you use graveyard like with a tank. There's like 500 damage variances, which in like mirror matches and in competitive play that makes the game. So it's just inconsistent, which is bad for competitive play in my opinion. So those are the things that most pro players have problems with. I mean, people are always going to complain about any deck that's good and that they lose to, but I think it's actually like warranted currently. So
I think there's sort of a surface level analysis going around that deck diversity is bad, and I can't imagine a situation where I ever get on board with that, because I've played other games where we've played Clash Royale where one deck has like dominated a meta. It's not fun to play. It's not fun to watch. Deck diversity is a good thing, period. The problem is that you need to have diversity where counter decks don't just kind of automatically win.
Yeah.
There may be like 60-40 favorites.
Yeah, that's fine.
65-35, something like that, where in a really situation where you outplay your opponent, you have a chance, you know. But I think the current problem is a problem with counters in the game. So counter decks, you know, they're not 60-40 or even 70-30 favorites. They're way higher than that when you're played at the top levels.
Yeah, and I think a real problem with it is if you're playing against the majority of poison decks and you play Three Musketeers, you don't have to be good with Three Musketeers at all. Like it's just you don't have to be good with it. And I think in order for counters to result in an advantage for one player, both players should be on basically equal terms. Both players should like know that deck inside and out. They shouldn't be able to just pick something up and win based on the matchup. So I think soft counters are okay, and you're never going to be able to completely balance a game with this many cards. It's the same in anything competitive, any MOBA like League of Legends or any of those games. Of course, there are things that counter each other, but you can still win if you play better or if you just know how to play the matchup really well. And I think we've been closer to that in the past, and it's starting to get worse. So yeah, I think those balance changes.
I always compare it to Hearthstone because that was my previous kind of strategy game experience. And I look at where they've got websites where they rank the best like Hearthstone decks and they rank them against the other best decks. And even in the like most lopsided situations, it's like 70-30 or 75-25 favorite, you know? So even when you're like totally screwed with your matchup, you have a chance. I feel like there's a lot less of that in Clash Royale, and it's not a problem with deck diversity. It's a problem with hard counters, you know?
Yeah, true.
But is it though that, like, you said deck diversity, do you say like this current meta is diverse? Because I think it isn't that, well, it is somewhat diverse, but it's all based around having counters for the bridge spam and somewhat calculated musketeers in. I don't think there's any other deck viable in the meta currently that isn't based on countering bridge spam.
No,
I feel like it's too diverse. Like you can use anything basically. Like I ran a Mirror Nightwitch deck and it still worked, or it still works. Like it's still good.
Nightwitch needs to be
I like that.
Yeah, I think that's more because of the Nightwitch though.
Yeah, but like it's so diverse.
Yeah, I think any deck that just I like diversity. I like it's fun for the viewers. Viewers don't like seeing the same 2 or 3 decks ran, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It's like I don't care how successful pro players are in like a 1 or 2 deck meta based on their skill alone. It doesn't mean anything if no one wants to watch you.
In the Goizen meta again, it was like who got slightly better poisons, and you know who got one more swing off with their giant.
Or who got the better card rotation.
Minor
to start the game.
Yeah. Also predictions.
Predictions
from a viewer,
which is good, but
it may be interesting from a pro's perspective because you're like tuned into those micro transactions. From a viewer's perspective, you're just like, I'm watching the same push and counter push over and over again, and it's a matter of who's getting like 50 more damage, you know.
And it's not fun to watch, especially if you're like, say CCGS had like a 2 deck meta, you would literally just watch the same matchup over and over again. That would be so freaking boring, especially for players who aren't just super involved in the competitive community. And you have to appeal to casuals if you want to grow the esports. So, I think deck diversity isn't necessarily bad. They just need to try to, and it's not easy. I do wish they would. I know you can't have someone you can't have a pro player play test for you. But you should be able to let pro players have an impact on the decision in countering. Because, I mean, if you're going to take this seriously as an esport, like League of Legends, I mean, any super serious esport, they listen to the pros and they watch the pro meta. Because while you have to try to balance... I mean, League of Legends, for example, does patches balance entirely around the competitive scene. And a lot of time it doesn't impact the casual scene because they're playing different stuff, or it just doesn't impact them. Or if it does, they adapt. Like if you want to take it seriously, you need to listen to the competitive scene.
We've sort of touched on this a little bit before, but Clash Royale, and I think they don't really have much of an alternative, but they don't balance around the pro scene.
No.
They balance around the casual scene, of
Yeah.
course. So that leads to problems, I think, as well in the competitive scene. That I mean, I don't know the solution, but then again, I'm not getting paid by Supercell, so it's not my job to figure it out. I can just throw out my suggestions and whatever. But I will say they do have some interaction. I mean, Surge, you know this, right? There's chats and whatever that they share some pre-release information and whatever.
Yeah, true.
Um,
But I feel like what you said, like it's more about casual players because when they, for example, nerfed Royal Giant, I felt like if you were a good player, you could use it in competitive play. I remember ESWC Winter Finals, we used Royal Giant, but as in right now, it's totally not viable anymore.
Yeah.
So I feel like they watch too much towards the casual players and not really the pro scene.
Yeah, and another thing is like Golem has a super high win rate, and competitive Golem's pretty trash. Because
Yeah.
I mean, there's some people who make it work, but Golem just gets punished so hard by good players. But I'll watch like
Night Witch.
yeah, I'll watch casual players, and someone play a Golem at the back, and another dude will he'll have like a Hog Rider in hand. He'll just start stacking up defensive troops in the same lane as the Golem. I'm like, what are you doing? You're just gonna you're gonna get murdered. But I mean, it's about knowing how to punish and stuff. And I mean, I'm not opposed to them like bouncing a little bit around, like bouncing commons maybe. You shouldn't make them too strong, but you should. You mainly need to nerf commons for. I think it's fine. But like for example, at what was it, the Crown Duel or whatever, they made Elite Barbarians broken like a day before the tournament.
Yeah.
It's something you just can't do. And the same thing is you can't do balance changes right before tournaments. Like that screws with pro players. They don't have time to adapt. And then it just becomes kind of luck based, like who can test out more decks and find out what's broken and just spam the broken deck before other players figure out what's good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some skill in that, but I just think if they take it seriously, like what League of Legends does, and I go back to that because I know the scene well, but they'll pick a patch before big, like especially the World Tournament. They'll pick one big patch and they'll be like, okay, this is it for this tournament. This is what everyone's going to practice on. This is what they're going to have to do.
Same with CS:GO, I think.
And then yeah, exactly. And then they balance after that happens. And they usually do a big balance that actually shakes up the game and makes it different in some way. Which I'm not opposed to them releasing new troops. They just need to do a better. I mean, crap. If something's broken, League of Legends fixes it within a week or two usually. What's wrong with hot fixes? Like Clash Royale will wait like a month or two before they fix something that's been broken. And yeah, I don't think you should. I think you should let new cards sit for a while before you balance them. But if old cards have become a problem, especially, or this new meta develops where one thing is like a really big problem, you should not be afraid to hotfix things. So.
Yeah, I think they're also looking at the wrong in their statements. I think they've said that they primarily look at win-loss rates in grand challenges and ladder and stuff as the basis for their balancing. And I think that's missing the key point that we're making about kind of the rock, paper, scissors-y-ness, as I'm calling it, of the meta. If everything hard counters everything else, they're all not going to have some absurd win rate, you know. But it's not an unhealthy meta for the game if one thing kind of automatically wins against something else.
Yeah, I mean, crap, you can... every deck having a 50% win rate in this game doesn't mean it's balanced, because... If one deck is Fireball, one deck is Poison, one deck is Heal, yeah, they're 50-50 against each other. Or it's like 100% against one deck, 0% against another. That's not balanced. That's not the way you should strive to have it. I just think really, and I think a lot of times they focus too much. I feel like recently they focus too much on troops, and then they just don't really pay attention to spells. And like Poison was broken for so long. And now it's really good again. I think it's better now.
Tornado was pretty busted.
They didn't touch it for a really long time, and I think it's in a good place now. Yeah. But they need to.
It's certainly not as infuriating.
Yeah, they need to fix stuff faster. So I'm looking forward to the balance changes. I know they're on break right now. Yeah.
They could also, and at times it seems like they've tried to do this. But they could also give cards that aren't seeing any love for long periods of time. Give those cards a buff and let them take their moment in the meta for a little while, you know?
Ice
Try
Wizard, for
something-
example.
I would love
try
to have.
Yeah, Ice
Well,
Wizard.
I will say
Yeah.
one thing. If they make Ice Wizard good again, people are gonna start hating that card because that card is a lot like
Ice
Electro
Wizard's
Wizard.
frustrating.
If you watch,
Yeah.
I watched
Pretty
someone play
much.
Electro Wizard
Yeah.
against a P.E.K.K.A. recently. It just renders a P.E.K.K.A. like completely useless. Like the card like doesn't move at all. It looks like it's perma stunned, and if you have any distract troops, it takes like 5 years. But I still like that card. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Ice
Yeah.
Wiz. It's kind of unique in how it has like no damage,
Just slowing.
but it has like
Yeah.
a massive AOE slow. So I think Ice Wiz is a really fun card to see. The kind of cards that I
Yeah.
don't want to see them buff are, I don't know, kind of the generic cards that kind of started out of the game. Like I don't think Mini P.E.K.K.A. should be buffed or anything. It's basically just like a different.
No.
It's just in my opinion, Mini P.E.K.K.A. is just like a different version. A bad version of Night Witch. It's like it's got a little bit more damage on the swing, but it's like it doesn't make
Yeah.
bats. It doesn't make spawn bats, and it costs the same elixir. So,
Well, that's the problem though with every card they add. It initially just replaces a card that's already in the game.
I mean, it's hard to make completely unique cards, but I think they actually do a decent job of that. I think that's okay, but I think they should try to like bring in more unique things. There's some cards that are just bad for the game that I don't think they should buff. Like in its current state, like Rage would be a trashy card to buff. Like that would be annoying.
pretty much.
I don't really want to see.
I never want to see a good bomb tower.
Yeah, I don't want to
you
see
know
a
what I
good
mean?
bomb tower.
Oh.
You don't want to overbuff like defensive towers, but in this meta, they're actually kind of useless.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be
Yeah.
opposed to a slight Inferno Tower or buff, but just because they've nerfed it like 50 times.
Yeah.
Maybe like
Yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Tesla like get like a rework to where it's somewhat useful. Make these towers like somewhat different, but maybe a little bit better than they are right now. Because right now everyone just overloads on troops and spells because of bridge spam, I guess. But maybe just nerfing the bridge spam cards will make defensive towers good again. So
Like going back to your point from a minute ago, I think that cards like Battle Ram, where there's kind of a semi-unique mechanic that nothing else quite had, they need more of those in the game. More
Yeah.
things that are going to shake things up. Whether or not you like Battle Ram, and that's a trickier question. I think it was interesting that they added some new kind of offensive oriented card. Usually,
I liked it. I mean,
Yeah,
with
there is
the-
a Skeleton Barrel coming as well, which is a unique card. So I think they are doing that already. And like
Yeah,
the Flying
yeah.
Machine and
Flying Machine looks
Mega Knight.
trashy. I hope they change it some.
I already forgot what all the new cards do, so I know they're kind of
Yeah.
original.
I feel
'cause,
like
they were some.
I do feel like they released the sneak peek for that too early. Like you shouldn't tell people and then make them wait like months.
not months.
Yeah, that's their fault though. Like they've been doing that with pretty much every
But
release
I
and
do
just
like the
de-hype
they
them.
are making pretty good card ideas. Yeah, I think they need to do a better job of hyping and like. Dude, bats took forever to come out, and they're
Yeah.
so bad. No one uses.
And they
bats.
nerfed it.
Yeah, like how
Like, I mean, why use bats?
Like, how is it a good idea? I mean, people were. I mean, I don't know. I guess they thought it was OP because everyone was complaining about Night Witch, but it wasn't. It wasn't the bats that made Night Witch OP. It was the fact that it spawned them at a ridiculous rate, and that four alone pop out when it dies. And then also the Night Witch she hits like a freaking tank killer. Like it's
turned out to do a lot of damage.
It's not like a little. It's not like a knight's DPS in like a more frail body. It's like almost like a mini P.E.K.K.A. The thing hurts. So
Yeah.
them nerfing that was good, but it needs another nerf. That's how broken the card is.
So that's
OP,
that's
rather.
that's a good segue since we're already kind of leaning that direction. What would you change about current cards? Would you nerf anything? Would you buff anything? And what are the priorities if you were Supercell right now?
Get rid of heal.
probably with the Night Witch, like don't let her spawn bats while she's alive. Like the 3 bats when she dies is fine in my opinion, but her spawning bats is just too OP versus like tank decks, like golem decks or like even giant decks. So I feel like that's a way to nerf the Night Witch. I don't feel like Battle Ram needs a nerf. Like you can stop it pretty easily. And the heal spell probably not make it like it doesn't affect the poison. For example, a bowler, then you can heal. That's okay in my opinion. But with a poison, you should not be able to
It's
heal.
not being able to counter a spell, I guess. And I guess that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
So like, if someone, I will say this. So if you decide to still, if they made that nerf and they still decide to have heal do the same thing but not be effective versus poison or whatever, if your opponent doesn't manage to make them stand still, or he doesn't double up on spells, you could still heal them once they're out of the poison, and bring them back to full HP. You just wouldn't be able to completely mitigate a spell for an even elixir trade. So
Positive elixir. Right?
positive, yeah. My bad. Heals 3,
but the thing is, spells like continue.
I just don't. Yeah, I mean, I want heal to be removed. They won't do it because people would be mad, I guess.
You kind of can't admit that big of a mistake. This
you just make the card. You just make it. You either make it terrible or
make it useless,
or you make it,
like
or you just make it not work against poison. Like I think making it not work against poison would make it a fair card. And then people would stop running it because it would be too situational.
I think the unfortunate thing about heal is it already kind of doesn't work with most archetypes.
It's only in the Three Musketeer deck.
So why even? I don't know. I feel like they didn't play test that all the way.
I mean, we thought it was bad when it first came out. It really only started.
Yeah.
It really only started. So people immediately were thinking Three Musk Minion Horde heal would be good, but it's really the fact that they added cards that also synergize with Three Musk, like the bridge spam cards, that made them really good, or they emerged as good. And people found out that Night Witch, Bandit, Battle Ram is really good. That it started to get like a lot of play, and I mean it takes people to figure out how to use things, but and the meta changes, so it's not, you can't just base stuff off of, I don't know, playtesting is hard, I suppose, but I do think they should have, at this point they should change it, but I guess they're on break right now.
I almost want it to be like a clone or a rage, where those are the cards where you don't ever kind of want them to be that good, because they're just a little too scary. They got a little too many drastic effects on the game.
Mm-hmm.
Make heal a little bit like that, where it might work in a really niche deck once in a while, but not, be a dominant one.
I wish.
Yeah, like
no,
surprise deck.
Yeah, I agree. I wish for clone they would put more emphasis on the displacement of troops as opposed to cloning a unit. I like how it moves the unit like to avoid like defenses or something, but it doesn't do much, so it's situational. It hardly ever works. But I thought that would have been cool.
Tell me this: would this break the game if instead of moving them to the side, it put the high health ones in front and like shifted all the new cloned ones to the back?
No, that would be annoying because it would build up tank. It would build up tank pushes harder. Yeah, that would be a huge buff. I think it's better if it's like more movement focused, but I mean I don't think they're gonna mess with heal. But yeah, I just think those nerfs. Night Witch, I think either you screw. I don't know. That would be a pretty huge nerf if she couldn't spawn bats anymore, which maybe she doesn't deserve to be in the meta. I don't really care if she's not. But I think if anything, just reduce her melee damage. Like she's supposed to be a spawning unit, but make her freaking melee damage not as much. That would make her more of a. That would make her hard countered by poison, but she would still have like a niche, and you could run her in like poison bait decks or something.
But to what though? Like what damage decrease? To night damage? To like
I don't know. Just
what do you think?
Don't make her hit like a tank killer.
Mini pack,
like a sledgehammer.
Yeah, I mean like maybe like a 10% damage nerf would be pretty impactful.
Maybe also her HP. Like I think she doesn't die to Fireball Zap or Poison Zap, which is insane for 4 elixir unit.
Yeah, I think she only dies to Fireball Log.
Fireball Log,
which is bad because it leaves her with bats. I would Night Witch nerf. I think Battle Ram could do with a small, like I don't know, I guess the HP shield maybe a little bit, but not very large. I like the card. It's a good card. Inside the game.
We need more cards like that.
Yeah, and then
I'm fully on board with that.
I really just think.
But they were talking about a nerf, right? About the or buff. I don't know. Like it wouldn't be thrown back anymore.
No, that was a buff. They were gonna make it. They were gonna make it to where Log and Bowler didn't damage the barbs that popped out.
Glad they didn't do that.
That would have been really annoying because Log is actually like if you play it right, you can hit the barbs and you can stop the battle ram and hit the barbs for like a chunk of their health. But yeah, hopefully they leave that alone.
Did they fix some kind of pathing with the battle ram? Because it feels like in the last month or so, maybe longer, I don't know, time, whatever. There was a period of time where battle ram, it was like you couldn't get it to a damn tower because it was like bumping into stuff and everything knocked it out of the way or knocked it back or whatever. Like, did they actually stealthily fix something with that or?
I don't know. Maybe I remember it being pretty trash. I know that. when it first came out, everyone was countering it because it was in the challenge. But I remember people too, like even if you didn't counter it, people just didn't play the card because they thought it was so bad. And people were using it like hog, and they're not using it much different now. I mean, the only trick that I guess I found out was like if you place it one tile behind the river, it charges before it starts getting shot at the tower. So I do that more often, but I don't. It's not that big of a difference.
Yeah.
I think it's just.
That's a good tip.
I think it's just the synergy with Night Witch and Bandit. It's just that if you play everything at the bridge when your opponent's low elixir, they're not going to be able to defend it. I just think it's the combination. So I think nerfing 2 of the 3, a decent amount would do away with it, because the problem with I don't necessarily complain about it because I don't find it all that hard to beat anymore because I know how to counter it, and I know how to manage elixir. I know not to start with a pump anymore at the beginning of the game and stuff. So I've kind of learned how to combat it, but for the average player, it's a pain. And even now, sometimes I'll play like a grand challenge match, and they'll have the Inferno Dragon Vietnam deck or whatever, and they legit won't go on defense. They'll go on, they'll play stuff at the bridge, they'll spell, and then as soon as that defense is down and I have like one troop counter pushing, they'll put down a Night Witch and then they'll put stuff in front of it again and just repeat the process of going on offense and never having to go on defense, because poison or fireball gets them, and these troops get them enough value that they're constantly in offense, but they're still not going down in elixir. And it depends on what counters I have. Like if I have good counters, I'll get up. But that's pretty ridiculous. Like you shouldn't be able to spam offense and not lose elixir lead. So it is a little bit problematic. So small nerfs. I just hate heal though. And so
heal.
What about Ewiz? Like there was a period of time where Ewiz was at the top or near the top of potential nerfs, and I don't hear that all that much anymore. I think it still needs a little bit of a nerf. I still think it's too powerful, too versatile.
If
they
nerf bridge spam, they'll need to nerf Ewiz probably, because Ewiz, the only reason Ewiz isn't as good now is because you force all these cards down his throat, and then Bandit, for example, destroys Ewiz plus poison. Night Witch bats make him less useful.
We'll just get killed.
So even though he's good 1v1 versus Battle Ram, but if you have these supporting troops and you poison everything in the area, him plus whatever troops they have, he just kind of dies really fast. And you can't really, against bridge spam, you can't really take advantage of his zap, because if you play him on top of something, he instantly gets murdered. It's just the meta. The decks that are being used changed, so he's not as good. He's really good against like tank decks, minor decks. So, but
I mean, he works in the giant deck, and especially against Hawkcry.
No, he's still good, right? He's still good right now. I just mean he's not. He was meta before because of what he counters. Any support troop, different support troops come viable depending on what win conditions become viable. I like how archers and knight rotate in and out of the meta. I think those are really well balanced cards. I think hog is a really well balanced card. I see people complain about hog at lower arenas, which is so confusing to me, because it's one of the cards in this game that has more counters than anything else. Like Tornado, Bowler, there's so many hard counters to hog.
All defenses, pretty much.
Yeah, it's
people have complained about hog since the first day of the game, whether it's been on top or at the bottom. You know.
But I mean,
but it's funny though. Hog, it always comes back to hog in the meta. I mean, it's coming back into games again. Well, it was trash in the beginning and with Night Witch and everything, and now Hog Fireball, Hog Execution.
Because if you put a tank in front of it, Night Witch takes too long. So I still think I like cards like that are versatile, that are pretty well balanced. I mean, really, it's just people are always going to complain about what's good, like I said, but in this meta, it's like an obvious issue with just hard counters. It's not a problem that heal's good. It's a problem that the matchups that it creates, and that's just the issue that people have with the meta. It's not people just whining. In this meta, usually it's just people whining and we ignore then. But yeah, in this situation, the matchups are really terrible in this meta for competitive players.
Yeah, when you were watching, like for example, CCGS, and they put the decks to the side, when you first saw the decks, like the matchups, you could already tell like, oh, that player will win. Yeah. And 90% you would be right, and maybe the other 10% the bad matchup would win. But like I feel like that should not be possible. Like I think that's not like I don't know.
There shouldn't be
good for the game.
There shouldn't be 90-10 matchups. At most there should be like 60-40s. in my opinion. 70-30 is at the absolute most.
70-30 as like the absolute.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
that's like
Yeah.
70-30 should be like I'm running a high risk deck like Expo. I'm running a high risk deck like I don't know. Expo's one. What's another card that just Three Muskies? Like you can be hard countered. I think those are decks that you go into matches thinking, okay, this is a risky deck. I am trying to either get an advantage or I'm just really good with this deck. So I think that's the situation to where 70-30s are okay. But average matchups for control decks especially, control decks should have a chance to win any game. Beat down and Siege are the riskier archetypes. So...
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, if you go control, you give up, well, a definite win condition or the fact that you can keep pushing.
You
or
want to play defensive.
Yeah, you want to play defensive, and you should get around 50-50 pretty much all of the time. And if you go play Siege, of course you're going to get hard counter sometimes, but you have a
really good
win condition.
matchups and others.
It is risk.
Yeah.
And with control, you almost never have like super good matchups. Yeah, so I think control should pretty much be able to win all the games.
That's like one of the defining characteristics of control is you want to be
in control,
you know, adaptable and in control. You want to be able to like roll with the punches and counter to some extent anything that they throw at you.
Yeah.
Okay, well let me. I have to wait. Shit, I just got a message. I have to leave in 7 because someone got hurt.
Okay.
Crap.
You wanna? Is there?
Oh shit. Oh damn. I got a picture. Yeah, a friend of mine. Never mind.
You want to wrap it? Is everything okay? Do you need to leave?
No. It's fine. Like he broke his toe. Like I saw he broke something, but I didn't know.
Okay.
He got hit. He was on the bike by a car, so but he's fine.
Yeah. I technically have a conference call in 10 minutes. I was just gonna blow it off, but
whatever you guys need to do. But if you want to move on to a new topic or whatever.
Yeah. Do you want to just start wrapping it up with maybe a little bit about your guys' experience in the tournaments recently? What were your top decks or something like that?
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy. I mean, you have Colton here, Gamer G. You have me, and then Surgical CCGS. I mean, you got some selection.
If anybody's the odd man out, it's me, bro. I haven't been competitive in.
Oh well, okay. Yeah.
Serge, you can go first.
Like my experience in tournaments or CCGS in particular.
Just recently in CCGS.
Yeah, like the experience, everything.
So what were the high lows? What were your favorite decks? You know, what were your favorite moments?
My favorite decks, I would say like the Hawk Rider deck. I did really well with it. I feel like it's a pretty versatile deck, and if you play well, you can outplay your opponent. Also, one of my favorite moments of CCGS was when I mirrored my Night Witch and then Baron his face. Like, I don't know, I don't know if you guys saw that, but that was really funny. And like my overall experience of CCGS in particular, it was pretty good. But the thing is, what I think was strange was that people were able to keep electronics on the stage. So, for example, like I will not name like players.
Yeah, names. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like so, some players were able to have a Discord call, for example, if they want to. I think that should not be possible. Like being able to communicate with others during the CCGS.
Not get an advantage.
I mean, I don't think. Personally, I don't think Discord calls for really good players are that much of an advantage. I prefer to be like silent. I think
no, but on the stream they showed it.
Oh, that's true. I forgot on stream.
So, for example, if I have one
that would be an
earbud
advantage.
and he says, "Okay, your matchup is 3 Musky Heal. Don't use poison on
Okay,
heal 3 Muskies."
Okay, that is a big deal. So, I mean, what they can.
I'm not sure if it happened, but like people were able to keep electronics, and I feel like that is like that should not be.
At King's Cup, they made us play on their devices.
Yeah, exactly, like something like that.
Which I don't think. I mean, so So I was confused. I thought you meant just like watching like through the friend system or whatever, which isn't whatever.
No, I understand.
But no, if you can, if it's live and you can see on stream a deck, that's a huge advantage. So yeah, that's pretty annoying. I guess
I don't know if it happened, but it's just something I
something
noticed.
you noticed, like
people
you could have done if you wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
So settle this question for me, Serge. I think they were saying that I think it was Nem Sensei, he beat you with the deck and you copied it despite never having played it before and won the next game. Is that true? You never played that deck before?
To be honest, I practiced the deck, and it was a different deck as well because he used triple spell, I had double spell, he had Mega Minion, I had goblins, and I did practice the deck, but I just never used it in the tournament. So it's a deck like it was my fifth deck slot I remember, and I just never played it. And in that best of five, like all of my decks didn't work. Like I got swept, so I was like, okay, I have to like yeah I don't know how to say that, but I guess something new, something surprising.
Shake it
So
up, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I used the giant deck and I won twice with it. Yeah.
I did the same thing in Gamergy. So
you
I had
racked
been
yourself,
I had
bro.
been spamming the crap out of the P.E.K.K.A. pump deck. I think I went 7-0 with it at Gamergy, and then Jigsaw had been playing a lot of Cycle Graveyard or Cycle slash Splash Yard, either one, either graveyard, a lot of Spell Bait, and a lot of Giant. So first match I went into, I played Giant 3 spells because it would counter.
Yeah, that hard.
It had graveyard counters. It hard countered Spellbait, and he played Spellbait, so he was screwed. And then
He actually gave
and then
up.
it was a mirror match versus Giant, and I'm like so if he plays my worst matchup, it's a mirror match. So I mean I picked a deck that countered all three, and then the next game I played Golem, which beats Giant. It had Baby Dragon and Archer, so it beats Graveyard. And then it had
So he couldn't do
Spellbait would have been
anything.
the worst matchup, but he had just lost to Spellbait, so I didn't think he would play it again. He played Giant, I won. And then third matchup,
Yeah.
I actually think Splash Yard can beat the P.E.K.K.A. deck, but I narrowly won. So
Yeah, I mean,
it really
won.
comes down to, I mean,
So-
the first two decks, though, were decks I hadn't ran the entire tournament. I think throughout Gamergy, I ran 9 different decks. So
What was your favorite? What was your favorite? What was even if it wasn't the best necessarily?
I mean,
what was
the
your
MVP had to
favorite?
be the P.E.K.K.A. Pump one because I went 7-0 with it in the playoffs in Gamergy.
Yeah.
It's like actually I had never played that deck before. I saw it at the first round of Gamergy. One of the Mooklash players used it, and I was like, I like that deck. So I took it,
Yeah.
and then I think the first person I used it against was the Mooklash player who I'd stole it from. And it was a mirror match, and I 3-crowned him. So
Yeah, I remember.
I thought it was hilarious. I mean, the reason he lost is because, and this was something I learned from Vietnam. He pumped to start the game. I went Battle Ram Night Witch Bandit, and then he lost his tower. He lost the pump, and then the game was over. But I was like, that's not my fault. I got punished for that against Vietnam. Like, you should know better at this point. So yeah, and then I used that deck for the rest of the tournament. So I actually had never used it before, but I mean, once you play this game long enough, you can kind of see a deck played by another competitive player and then pick it up instantly. So yeah, I did use that. But as far as like the entire experience, the food in Spain, especially, and then this food was so good. Like I like so much food. Mthja, yeah, we had octopus. Mthja was so like terrified of it. He wouldn't eat the parts that were like obviously.
You saw tentacles. You
Dude,
could see
they
it
were
was
cool. It
tentacles.
tasted fine. So I would.
It's like the chicken. That's the real chicken.
I
of the
was
sea,
like
bro.
I was
It's
like
octopus.
dangling it over my mouth to screw with Mthja. It was funny.
I thought you Europeans are supposed to be more cultured than us.
I thought
ugly
it was
Americans.
great.
But it looked like tentacles.
Dude, everything
like
is-
wet
everything was-
tentacles. I'm not eating.
They had something else like that was like bull's tail, but it tasted like amazing. I don't know. Everything was like meats, cheese, and bread.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't go wrong for me. So that was amazing. Spain was really good food wise. And then just all the experiences, the live events. I will say the thing that I disliked about CCGS from a spectator's point was you guys seemed like so not hyped because you're in front of a camera crew and nothing else. Like that
Yeah.
takes away so much. Like a live crowd is so important for big tournaments, I think. And
Yeah.
it makes
It doesn't need to be a stadium, but get some people in
it
there.
makes
to-
the player
you
and
know.
it makes the players nervous, which is good.
Yeah.
It puts a lot of stress on the line, and that's how you should have it for big events.
Mhm.
As opposed to like playing in like a small room with like a camera crew staring at you, which is just kind of weird as opposed to
That's
like
true.
hype. So I think my favorite part of live events is the crowd. So I think it'd be.
Yeah, I remember my reaction in ESWC Winter.
Yeah, you were like so
and
hyped.
then my reaction.
And
went
then
up.
you were
Yeah.
just like you just like smiled. It was like, oh, that's lame, yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course when I won Gamergy, that was my favorite moment. I freaking screamed. I went like Banshee. I was so excited. Like that was really fun. Like I mean, I was dealing with a lot of crap. So when I finally won, it was really cool and it was really exciting for me. So I like freaking yelled and everything. That was my favorite point of Gamergy. So the other thing is like
you could tell.
just warm me up for everything, being able to meet my team and stuff. So that was all my favorite stuff for live events.
Except for Surgical because he happened to be in
Surgical,
America.
we like reversed. I had just left California.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just arrived in Europe. All right, so Mthja can take it away.
They already started the. Oh, go ahead. I want to hear yours as well, Mthja.
Are you lagging?
Favorite decks? Can you hear us?
Oh, my favorite.
Did we lose
You
you?
froze for a little bit.
Yeah, you're froze.
Did you lose me?
Oh, you're good now.
You're
No,
back
Am I
now.
good? Okay, nice. Okay.
Your
my connection
experience
is-
about live events.
Mhm.
The
Yeah,
live
my
events
connection
you
is really bad, so if I drop out, you know why. But okay. Anyways, like my favorite deck was by far the Zapbay deck. When I was on live stage against Rom, I was like just for the heck of it, I was just like, I'll copy the deck that the last guy used, and it happened to be Jigsaw with the Tombstone Zapbay deck instead of Inferno, and it worked really well for me. I won about 4 games with it, well in total, but 2 games against Rom. And it just worked really well because nobody else was really using Tombstone. Well, everyone was using Battleram, so it was a surprise.
Yeah.
What
What else is in that deck, by the way?
Log, Print, and Dark Goblin as well, because Dark Goblin just had that good value against Night Witch.
over Ice
And
Spirit.
Graveyard.
Graveyard.
Instead of Ice
Yeah.
Spirit, you would have a Dark Goblin. Yeah, exactly.
It's like the typical
Which is
Survey deck with Dark Goblin and Tombstone.
yeah.
In Gamergy, did you see a lot of 3 Mask Heal? I felt like you
No.
barely saw.
Not. I didn't feel like it was.
I want to
No.
say that was right before it became good, like before people realized
Yeah.
it was good. I don't think 3 Must Kill was even a thing yet at Gamergy.
I mean, in ESWC, it was dominant.
No,
by
people
far.
figured. I want to say like immediately after Gamergy is when 3 Must Kill started to become a thing. Like when people realized it was good. I want to say I saw more normal 3 Must than I saw 3 Must Kill because I don't think people knew how good it was yet or had made the decks to make it work. So yeah, I didn't see much 3 Must Kill.
But in Gamergy, I saw with the Bandit and the Night Witch, like you said, and in ESWC it was heal basically. I think Killua, that was 75% of what he used. It was just
he won because
heal
he
must
won
kill.
because he was good at 3 Must Kill.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which
And well, being good at Musketeer heal doesn't take too much, but yeah, he just ran it, and nobody was using Fireball Zap, at least to
no
my
one knew.
knowledge.
I mean, I tried to make counter decks throughout the day, but they kind of sucked. I just didn't know what.
Yeah,
I just didn't.
I mean, you can
I just
still
didn't.
win.
I mean, I was putting like Fireball on like my P.E.K.K.A deck, but it's just not very optimal because if they're not playing 3 Must Kill and they have Night Witch, it's like every push gets shut down because you need poison to counter Night Witch on offense. So I just got screwed by like Spellbait and like anything. Not Spellbait because I had Zap and Fireball Zap.
Yeah.
I was getting screwed by Spellbait. I was getting screwed by like any deck that had Night Witch in defense that wasn't 3 Must Kill. So I didn't have the optimal counter deck. Now I have like a couple decks that are pretty good against 3 Must Kill that I can run. But
Also, if you use like Fireball Zap on the Muskies, they go with better and main horde.
Yeah,
yeah,
that was so
that's true
annoying.
as well.
Yeah.
You had to. So that's not like the perfect. I mean, Fireball Zap is good in decks that need you to pair with like an offensive card. So like if they have to defend some type of tank or a win condition, if you can Fireball, then it works. It doesn't work as much with like bridge spam. I guess the one deck that it does work with is like the quicker bridge spam, but not with P.E.K.K.A. It was terrible with P.E.K.K.A.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's so the meta kind of changed a little bit. I will say, at CCGS, maybe not in some of the later ones, but people didn't realize 3 Must Kill was good either, because like not at Gamergy, but like CCGS took place after some of them took place after ESWC or whatever, and people like didn't realize 3 Musketeer was good even then yet. So it's really now like after these tournaments, maybe a little bit. I mean ESWC obviously, but after that, CCGS didn't use it a ton, and now people are starting to realize it's a really big problem now that everyone's exposed to it in GCs. So it was fun though, because going into Gamergy, no one knew what they were gonna play. Like Gamergy was
Pretty
so
much.
it was like we practiced so much trying to make new decks, and then I ended up just stealing one and winning mostly with it. I did win quite a bit with one deck I made, and then I felt bad for Jigsaw because he actually showed me or sent me screenshots because we were friendly. I met him in the finals, and I used the deck that CMC used. I used it against him, and he had sent me the screenshots of the deck. So I felt kind of bad about that, but it was really fun. So yeah, kind of rambling on at this point, but the whole tournament experience is really fun. And then, I mean, Mthja, what all did you think about like traveling and everything?
Yeah, the traveling with Kaiser and meeting every single, especially you, because I don't get to meet American players.
Queso, just meeting with Queso is the best part, probably.
Yeah, and it was just really fun. And in the tournament itself, it was just really funny to see like Vietnam on the second day of Gamergy play some weird deck, and then the next day in Gamergy you would see some play testing of that deck as well. Yeah. At least I found that.
Oh, that was my.
Well, I guess I guess the fall season is starting next month. Yeah, for CCGS
in London.
I think it's not announced yet.
Yeah.
So they're already hyping it. So it'll be
it's
interesting
in
to
London.
see.
It should be soon.
It'll be interesting to see like what. I can't imagine that they're not going to do some balance changes between
before
here and there.
They will.
Yeah.
I hope they nerf heal before, otherwise it will just be 3 Musketeers and counters to it again.
CWA.
They will release the Mega Knight, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, they will.
Dear
But
God.
are you allowed to use
Please
it?
play test. Please play test before you release it.
P.E.K.K.A.'s gonna stay in the meta. P.E.K.K.A.'s gonna be the hard counter to Mega Knight.
Probably. Yeah.
Ice Golem to guide it.
Yeah.
Could be.
I'm still interested to see if you can play like a small troop in the middle and then play something else like next to your King Tower. If the Mega Knight will splash and activate the King Tower.
I hope that would be
that'd
good.
be funny, but well, I mean, we have no idea until we get to play it. It's like you can't know until you get to play something. What was it? Was it Electro Wizard that we saw the stats and we're like, that card looks like garbage, and then you play it and you're like, wait, it does spawn zap.
Night, I think it was Night. Well, Ewiz may have been the same way, but I remember some people saying Night Witch was trash, like it was never going to be played. They were like, why would you have a melee troop who spawns, ranged units or whatever?
Did you try placing a tank in front of it? Then you see.
That was the exact same with the Ice Golem, and everyone happens to use it now. It's pretty much every card.
It's been nerfed too. The Frost Nova on Ice Golem used to be so OP.
Yeah.
Like it freaking killed everything in like a large
graveyard counter.
Yeah.
It used to be a pretty consistent graveyard counter.
Yeah, because the AoE was so big and it slowed everything.
We zipped right past this. We zipped right past this in our discussion of like nerfs and buffs and stuff. But I think probably the number one reason why the most powerful cards are the most powerful are because they have that versatility. Yeah. They're good at many different things. I think they need to get away from that with a lot of cards.
Make them.
Ewiz is still at the top of my list.
Make them like more one-dimensional, like they serve one purpose or something.
I mean, make them so they don't serve all purposes. You know what I mean? Like, how many things can you use Ewiz for? It's crazy.
Nerf it, yeah. I want them to put back 4 skeletons. I like countering him with 4 skeletons.
Yeah, bring back my Larry.
We all miss Larry.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I like offensive gameplay, but they need to lower it down. Like, because I mean, people have said before. Right now, you get punished for playing, or people are taught how to play the game incorrectly because of bridge spam. You just spam stuff, which.
And I don't even consider that offensive gameplay because it's not creative or tricky or anything. It's just like, I got elixir here, throw more stuff at the bridge,
then poison
right?
everything. Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah. So
anyways, on that chipper note, do you want to wrap up?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good talk. As much as people rag on Supercell because people always rag on games they're passionate about, I think they do a relatively good job most times. I don't think they're always far off. So I think big community influencers like Clash of the Ash will impact their decisions to like maybe do better with the changes that the pro community wants. And I do think they're starting to take us more seriously. So I'm optimistic as always about what's going to come out of this. But as we are nearing the end of the episode, I'd like to thank Surgical and Mthja for coming on.
No problem.
Thanks for coming on again,
No
even though I
problem
didn't
at
get to post the first one. So is there anything you guys would like to talk about or mention for your audience, for the audience, before you leave?
No, just thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you for inviting me. Really,
Follow these
appreciate it.
guys on YouTube and
Yeah,
Twitter,
YouTube and Twitter.
because they're both fantastic content creators.
Thanks.
Yep.
They're not just okay players. They're really great content creators as well.
Yep. And even though Mthja's not on the list, he's allowed. You're allowed to follow him too. He's pretty good.
We got the
I got
walkout.
the plug of the list. That was hilarious. That was funny.
Am I on the list again?
Yeah, I'll put you on the next one of worst players I know. All right. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Peace.